The forbidden rule, the galaxy was full of rules. Some rules were made by empires. Some rules were made by science. But one rule was older than all of them, whispered in every corner of space. It was a rule that no species ever dared to break, never wake the humans. No one explained why, no one questioned it. The words were passed down like a curse, like a shadow hiding behind every star. The young alien races were told about it in stories, while the old ones carried the fear in silence. And so, the rule stayed unbroken, until one day it almost wasn't. In the far edges of the galaxy, a small exploration ship drifted near a dark blue planet. The planet was quiet, covered with oceans and clouds. It looked ordinary, but the crew knew better. The ship belonged to the Veyari, a curious race of explorers. They loved to travel where no one else dared to go. They studied dead worlds, empty stations, forgotten ruins. But this time they had gone too far. Inside the ship, the crew stared at the planet with unease. "Is this Earth?" whispered one of them, her silver skin glowing faintly in the light. Her captain nodded slowly. His voice was heavy, almost trembling. "Yes, the human homeworld." The crew fell silent. Even saying the name felt dangerous. For centuries, the Veyari had heard the warnings. Legends spoke of humans as a race of fire and iron. They were said to be clever, ruthless, unstoppable. But no one alive had ever seen one. The humans had been gone for thousands of years, locked away in something older than memory. The crew had not meant to come here. Their ship's navigation had been damaged in a storm of cosmic radiation. They had jumped through space blindly and ended up here, at the one place no one should be. Now, as they looked at the blue planet, a strange signal pulsed through their scanners. It was faint but steady, like a heartbeat. "Something is still active down there," said the technician, his voice dry with fear. The captain hesitated. He knew the law. Every race knew the law. But curiosity, the hunger that drove explorers, burned inside him. "Prepare a landing shuttle," he said. The crew froze. "Captain, the rule—" "I know the rule," he cut in sharply. "But we need to see. If there is danger, it is our duty to report it. If it is nothing, then at least we will know." The words sounded brave, but in truth his heart was racing. The shuttle dropped into the atmosphere, flames licking its hull as it cut through the sky. They landed in silence on a vast plain, where the ruins of old human cities stretched into the horizon. Towers had crumbled, streets were cracked, but something about the place felt alive. They stepped out carefully. The air was thick, heavy with moisture. Somewhere far away, thunder rolled. The technician pointed to a large underground structure nearby. Its doors were sealed with ancient steel, but the signal was coming from inside. "This is it," he whispered. They broke open the doors with their tools. Dust and cold air rushed out, carrying the scent of a world long buried. Inside, the walls glowed faintly with power. Machines still hummed, impossibly alive after thousands of years. And then they saw them. Rows upon rows of pods stretched across the chamber, each one holding a figure inside. Figures with 2 arms, 2 legs, and eyes closed in endless sleep. "Humans," breathed the silver-skinned explorer. Her voice cracked. "They're still here." The crew felt their throats tighten. This was the truth behind the rule. The humans had not vanished. They had not died. They were only sleeping. One of the pods flickered. Its lights glowed faintly, then brighter, as though something had been triggered. The crew staggered back. "No, no, no," the technician gasped. "We shouldn't be here." The captain's voice broke as he whispered the words every race in the galaxy feared. "We woke one," the pod hissed. Frost melted down its glass surface. Inside, the figure stirred. A hand twitched. Fingers pressed against the glass. The aliens could not breathe. Their hearts pounded like drums in their chests. The glass slid open. Mist poured out. And then, slowly, the human sat up. He looked around, his eyes sharp, piercing, filled with something the crew had never seen before. Something powerful, something dangerous. The human's voice was calm but heavy with weight as he spoke the first words in 1,000 years. "Who woke me?" The crew stumbled backward, shaking. None of them could answer, but the human did not wait. He rose to his feet, tall, strong, and terrifying in his silence. He stepped onto the floor, his bare feet echoing against the ancient metal. His gaze locked on the aliens, and in that gaze was a storm, rage, sorrow, and something deeper. He took one slow breath, and the entire chamber seemed to tremble. The rule was broken, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The first awakening. The air inside the chamber grew heavy. The alien crew stood frozen, their eyes locked on the human who had just stepped out of his pod. For thousands of years, no one had seen a living human. The forbidden fear of an entire galaxy now stood breathing right in front of them. The human blinked, his eyes adjusting to the faint light. He looked around slowly, like a hunter waking in a strange land. His body was strong, though he wore only a simple suit from another age. His hair was short, his face calm, but his gaze carried the weight of storms. "Who woke me?" he asked again, his voice deep, steady, and heavy with power. No one answered. The Vayari crew felt their throats close. The technician tried to step back, but his legs shook too much. The human tilted his head as if studying them. He stepped forward, and each step echoed like thunder. The silver-skinned explorer finally whispered, We didn't mean to. It was an accident." The human's eyes narrowed. Accident? He touched the wall of the chamber. The machines reacted instantly, lights flashing, data flowing. The technology was old, yet it obeyed him like a loyal servant. He looked at his hand, then at the aliens. "You are not human," he said flatly. "What species are you?" The captain found his voice. "We are Vayari, explorers. We came here by mistake. Please, we meant no harm." The human studied them for a long time. Then he gave a small, cold smile. "And yet, you broke the rule." The crew shivered. The human knew about the rule, but how? The captain swallowed. You know the rule?" The human's smile faded. "Every race knows the rule, because they all feared us. Didn't they?" The chamber grew colder. Suddenly alarms blared inside the ancient complex. Red lights flashed across the walls. The pods around them hummed with energy, as though the awakening of one human had disturbed the sleep of many. The crew panicked. "We have to leave!" shouted the technician, but the human raised his hand, and the alarms stopped instantly. The crew froze again, realizing he controlled the machines without effort. The human turned to them slowly. "Tell me, how long have we slept?" The captain stammered. "Many thousands of years. Whole empires have risen and fallen since humans vanished." The human closed his eyes for a moment. His chest rose and fell with a deep breath. "So long, and yet they still feared us enough to hide us away." He opened his eyes, and they burned with a strange fire. "You don't understand," the captain said quickly. "The galaxy remembers the wars. They say humans destroyed everything in their path. That is why they sealed us away." The human interrupted. His voice was sharp now, carrying steel within it. "No, they sealed us because they could not defeat us. They feared what they could never control." The aliens trembled. The human began to walk deeper into the chamber, his hand brushing against the rows of pods. Frost glistened on the glass, each pod holding another human inside. He looked at them with something between sorrow and pride. "They left my people here, waiting, sleeping, watching. We trusted no one, so we built our own tombs." "A tomb that was never meant to stay closed forever," the silver-skinned explorer whispered. Then you will awaken the rest?" The human turned to her slowly. His eyes pierced her like blades. "Should I?" She stepped back, unable to answer. Suddenly the ground shook. The ship in orbit above sent a desperate message. "Captain, enemy fleet detected. Multiple ships, closing fast." The crew gasped. How had they been found so quickly? The human's lips curved slightly. "So they felt my awakening." The galaxy still listens. Outside the chamber, the sky burned as alien warships descended. They were not Vayari ships. They belonged to another empire, one sworn to make sure the rule was never broken. The captain's communicator crackled. "They're demanding we hand over the human." The human chuckled, low and dangerous. "Of course they are. But you will not." The Vayari captain shook his head in terror. We cannot fight them. They are too many. The human stepped closer, his shadow falling over the captain. You will not fight them. I will. The crew stared at him in disbelief. You, alone? The human smiled again, this time wider, sharper. One is enough. He placed his hand on the wall. The entire chamber came alive. Lights blazed, machines roared, and energy surged through the ancient base. Outside, the approaching fleets felt a sudden pulse, a signal so strong it shook their systems. The sleeping humans stirred in their pods, just slightly, as if responding to their brother's call. The human looked back at the aliens, his voice calm and steady. Run if you wish. Stay if you dare. But remember this, your galaxy will never be the same. The first human is awake, and the others are listening. The chamber shook again as explosions echoed from the skies above. The rule was broken, and the war to keep humanity asleep had just begun. Why the galaxy fears humans, the Vayari crew huddled in silence, their ship trembling under the shadow of approaching war fleets. Outside, alien armadas closed in on Earth, their weapons ready to fire. Inside the ancient chamber, one human stood awake, watching everything with calm, sharp eyes. The aliens did not understand why they feared him so much. He had no armor, no weapons, no army. He was only one man, and yet their hearts shook with terror. The silver-skinned explorer whispered almost to herself, Why does the galaxy fear them so much? The human turned, his expression unreadable. Because they remember. Even if you do not, the stars remember what we were. He placed his hand against a wall of the chamber. The machines hummed, and suddenly the lights shifted. Images flickered across the metal, holograms, recordings from a forgotten time. The crew gasped as ancient battles played before their eyes. They saw endless skies filled with fire. Alien fleets, larger than anything the Vayari could imagine, fought against a much smaller force. Yet in every battle the smaller fleet won, and those ships were human. The recordings showed humans in war, ships bursting through enemy lines, soldiers fighting even when wounded, commanders refusing to surrender. Where other species broke, humans adapted. Where others gave up, humans endured. The technician whispered, Impossible. They fought against empires 10 times larger. The human's voice cut through his words. And we never lost. Do you understand now? The holograms shifted again. Now the Vayari saw ground battles, humans with simple weapons charging against towering alien war machines. Outnumbered, surrounded, they still pushed forward. Their faces were grim, fierce, unstoppable. Your races were built for peace, the human said coldly. Ours was built for struggle, for survival, for victory. The crew could not look away. The images were more than history. They felt like nightmares made real. Then the recording showed something worse. Entire alien civilizations burned, not because humans wanted destruction, but because humans refused to bow. Empires begged for peace, but the humans fought until their enemies had no choice but surrender. The captain's face went pale. This is why they sealed you away. You would have destroyed us all. The human's gaze was like iron. No, we only destroyed those who tried to chain us. The galaxy wanted order. They wanted control, and they learned that humanity cannot be controlled. Silence filled the chamber. The crew felt the truth settle into their bones like ice. The rule was not just a warning. It was fear carved into history. The silver-skinned explorer's voice trembled. Then, is it true that humans cannot be killed? The human gave a slow, cold smile. We die. Of course we die. But we do not stay dead in your minds. Every time one of us falls, 10 more rise. Every time you crush us, we crawl back stronger. That is why they fear us. Not because we are immortal, but because we refuse to vanish. Above them, the sky thundered as the enemy fleet drew closer. The Vayari ship's alarm screamed, Captain, they are charging weapons. The crew panicked. The technician shouted, They'll destroy us all. We have to surrender him. The captain hesitated, sweat pouring down his face. To hand over the human might save their lives. But looking into his eyes, the captain knew surrender was impossible. The human stepped forward, his voice calm and final. They will come. They will fire, and they will learn, once again, why they should never wake a human. The ground shook as the first blast hit the surface above. Dust rained down into the chamber. The crew screamed and staggered, but the human only lifted his hand. The walls glowed. The ancient machines responded like loyal beasts. Energy surged into the skies, forming a barrier that caught the next blast and shattered it into harmless sparks. The Veyari gaped in shock. The human had turned ruins into weapons with nothing but a touch. He looked at them, his eyes burning like fire. This is why they fear us. Because even when we sleep, our will lingers in the bones of our world. And when we wake, nothing can stand in our way. Another explosion rocked the sky. The fleets circled like predators, preparing to strike again. The silver-skinned explorer whispered, "What will you do now?" The human looked at the endless rows of sleeping pods. His expression hardened, sharp as a blade. "What I must," he said simply. He laid his hand on the nearest pod. The ice began to crack. The machine hissed, releasing streams of vapor. Inside, another human stirred, their hand twitching just like his had. The crew's breath caught in their throats. The human turned back to them. "One is dangerous. But what happens when there are many?" Outside, the fleets prepared their final assault. But deep inside the Earth, the humans began to stir, and the galaxy's greatest fear was about to return. Rising tension. Across the galaxy, the first human was awake, and the galaxy trembled. The Veyari crew had seen the truth with their own eyes. One man standing against fleets, commanding machines with a touch, and speaking with the weight of history. They had seen pods begin to stir, hints that more humans might rise. And now the news was spreading like wildfire. In the capital world of the Zalari Empire, the High Council gathered. The chamber was built from crystal and light, yet every face inside was dark with fear. "The impossible has happened," said the speaker. "The rule has been broken," whispers erupted across the hall. Old legends, once treated as warnings for children, were suddenly alive again. One counselor hissed, "If one is awake, more will follow. We must act before it is too late." Another counselor shook his head. "You forget, violence only makes them stronger. If we strike Earth now, we may awaken them all." The speaker's voice rose above the panic. "Then we face the truth. The age of silence is over. The humans are returning." Meanwhile, in the syndicate of the Zorath, greed burned brighter than fear. The Zorath were merchants and warlords, always searching for power to sell. A Zorath admiral leaned forward in a shadowed chamber, his eyes gleaming. "Imagine what one human could do in our service. Armies would kneel. Empires would pay," another whispered. "They say humans are uncontrollable." The admiral grinned. "Then we shall try to control them. If we succeed, we rule the stars. If we fail, at least we will not die as cowards." But not every race saw humans as monsters. In the quiet star clusters of the Rael, a gentle people remembered a different story. They remembered humans who had saved their colonies from extinction during an ancient plague. They remembered soldiers who had given their lives to protect strangers. "The others see demons," said the Rael elder, her eyes glowing with sorrow. "But I see guardians. Perhaps the galaxy has forgotten their kindness," another elder whispered back. "Or perhaps kindness died with their wars." Back on Earth, the first human stood at the center of it all. The Veyari captain's communicator crackled endlessly. Threats, demands, warnings from orbit. Fleets circled like wolves, afraid to strike but too fearful to leave. The human ignored them. He walked slowly among the rows of sleeping pods, his hand brushing against the glass. Each face behind the frost seemed ready to wake, ready to rise again. The silver-skinned explorer dared to ask, "Will you awaken them all?" The human did not answer at first. He simply stared at the frozen faces of his people. When he finally spoke, his words were heavy. "Not yet. The galaxy is afraid, and fear is a weapon I must use carefully." Outside, the fleets grew restless. One commander of the Zalari ships snarled into the comms, "Destroy the planet before they spread." Another replied nervously, "And if our attack awakens them all? Do you want billions of humans rising at once?" Silence followed. No one wanted to be the one who triggered the end, but while they argued, the Zorath made their move. A stealth craft slipped through the blockade, diving into Earth's atmosphere. Their mission was not destruction, it was capture. Inside the chamber, alarms wailed again. The Veyari crew panicked, shouting, "New signals! Hostiles incoming!" The human lifted his head slowly, as if he had been expecting this. He looked at the Veyari captain. "Your galaxy cannot decide, kill me, use me, or worship me. They do not understand, but they will." The doors of the chamber exploded inward. Armored Zorath soldiers stormed inside, their weapons aimed at the human. "Seize him!" Their leader roared. The human did not move at first. His eyes, sharp as blades, locked onto the intruders. The chamber itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a single gesture, he commanded the old machines. The floor erupted with energy. The Zorath soldiers were thrown back. Their weapons melted into slag. The leader crawled, trembling, staring up at him. You are not a man. You are death itself." The human stepped forward, calm and unshaken. "No, I am only the beginning." The Zorath fleet above received no reply from their ground team, only silence. Then suddenly, a single message came through, 3 words spoken in a voice not their own: "We are awake." The message spread beyond the blockade, carried through hidden relays and intercepted channels. Across the galaxy, races listened. Some trembled, some cursed. Some prayed. The humans were stirring, the rule was broken, and the galaxy stood at the edge of a storm it could not escape. The return of the humans. The galaxy had always feared this moment. For thousands of years, the rule had been repeated like a prayer: never wake the humans. Now, that rule was broken. Above Earth, the night sky blazed with the glow of countless fleets. The Delari, the Zorath, the syndicates, even neutral races, all had gathered, united by one common fear. Their ships circled like vultures, engines humming, weapons ready. They all knew what had happened. One human had awoken, and if one could wake, others could too. Inside the ancient chamber, the first human stood tall, his gaze fixed on the stars beyond the walls. The Veyari crew huddled together, trapped between their terror and their awe. "You don't understand," the silver-skinned explorer whispered. "They will burn this planet to ash to stop you." The human finally turned, his face calm. "They cannot burn what refuses to die." He pressed his hand against the nearest pod. The glass cracked, mist hissing into the air. Another human's eyes fluttered open, then another, and another. The Veyari crew gasped as shadows stirred inside the rows of pods. Hands twitched. Faces shifted. Humanity was waking, not one, not a few, but many. Far above, alien commanders panicked as their sensors detected rising energy from the planet's surface. "They are stirring," shouted a Zelari officer. "We must fire now." "Wait!" barked another. "If we strike while they awaken, the reaction could be worse. We don't know how many are there." The comms filled with arguments, fear twisting every voice. None dared to give the final order. Back on the ground, the second human fully stepped out of her pod. She was tall, scarred, her eyes like burning steel. She looked at the first human, then at the aliens who stared at them with terror. Her voice was low, steady. "How long?" The first human answered softly. "Too long." Around them, more pods cracked open. One by one, the ancient warriors of humanity rose, their movements slow but unshakable, like storms gathering after endless silence. The Veyari captain fell to his knees. His people had seen many wonders in their journeys: living suns, endless voids, worlds carved by giants. But nothing compared to this. "Stars help us," he whispered. "They are returning." The silver-skinned explorer grabbed his arm. "Don't you see? The stars cannot help us now." "Nothing can." The first human lifted his head as the chamber lights burned brighter. His voice carried across the room, deep and commanding. "We were forgotten, buried, erased from history because they could not control us. They thought sealing us away would keep the galaxy safe. But they were wrong." He looked at the Veyari crew, his eyes sharp as knives. "Tell your people. Tell every world. Humanity sleeps no longer. Above, the fleets began to move, their formations shifting. Fear pushed them closer to attack. The Zorith admiral sneered into the comms. Enough waiting. If we hesitate, they will rise. Fire on the planet. But before the order could spread, a pulse erupted from Earth, an ancient signal older than any empire. It was not a weapon, not yet. It was a voice, and it spoke across every channel in every language. At once we are awake. On distant worlds, billions stopped what they were doing. Workers froze, soldiers dropped their weapons, children stared at the sky. The words rippled through space like thunder across the ocean. The humans were awake. Back in the chamber, more and more pods opened. The humans who emerged were different, some scarred, some young, some old. But each carried the same fire in their eyes. The first human stood among them, his voice quiet but unshakable. We do not seek peace. We do not seek war. We seek what was taken, our place among the stars. The second human smirked, cracking her knuckles. And if they resist? His answer was simple. Then they will remember why they feared us. The sky above Earth lit with the glow of weapons charging. Fleets prepared to unleash fire that could shatter worlds. But deep in the heart of the planet, humanity had returned. Not as conquerors, not as victims, but as something far older, far stronger. Survivors. The rule was broken. The war for the galaxy's future had just begun, and this time, humanity was awake.